What's up, guys? My name is Gabe, and welcome back to the Trojan Blade. Welcome back to a brand new video. This is a Monday, January 19th edition of the Trojan Update. And man, here we are, tail end of January, and we still do not have an announcement on the DC hire. You feel like it should be coming any day now, but as we sit on this Monday, no news as of now. But it does feel like we're really zeroed in on two candidates. I'm not really excited about either of them, but they do both bring some pros and obviously cons as well. We also have some roster retention news that I kind of want to weigh in on. So let's not waste any more time. If you guys are enjoying the videos, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Really appreciate you guys being here. Now let's get into it. All right, so before we get into the DC stuff, USC did re-sign Alex Graham, and that's fantastic news. That's going to be a starter next year, guaranteed. He's a future all-conference kind of talent. But what I really want to talk about is we lost AJ Tuiteli to the portal, and that isn't the big issue for me. It's the linebacker room in general, which if your goal, as Chad Bowden, as Lincoln Riley, as whoever, if your goal is to win a national title in 2026, to not add one linebacker in this portal class shows me that that's not actually the goal. This is a developmental year. The chips are not all in. We are playing for 2027. We are trying to develop the young guys. Because as the roster looks right now, we're going to be playing a ton of freshmen. When's the last time a team made it to a national title game or even had a playoff run built primarily around freshmen? It doesn't happen very often. So to say that we're okay going into next year with Desmond Stevens and Jaden Walker as our two linebackers, and look, I get that off-ball linebacker, the positional value has plummeted in recent years. The RPO has really taken linebackers out of the game in a big way. But when you play in the Big Ten, in my opinion, it's still an extremely important position. So to not address that at all, especially when there were a lot of solid players available, that kind of sucks. Very disappointing. And it does seem like we have a new linebacker coach in Coach Eckler. But until we get that announcement, Rob Ryan is still the linebacker coach, and that's just a nightmare. I don't like that at all. So I thought that was interesting. Tuiteli, while it does suck to lose him just because I was very high on him, it's not the biggest deal in the world. When you look at all the players who left and you look at the landing spots that they had, that kind of tells you a lot. So yeah, overall, this portal cycle, it definitely was part of their plan. It's what they wanted to accomplish. Just bring in some solid role players, guys with experience, but obviously not the most exciting and definitely does not portray the idea that we're all in for a national title in 2026. Where does that leave Lincoln Riley? We have an entire offseason to talk about that. So let's talk about the DC hire. All right, so if you believe all the reporting around this, we're down to two guys, Coach Henny and Gary Patterson. Like I said in the intro, I'm not excited about either of them. But while I'm not excited, that doesn't mean that they both don't bring some major pros if you hit on them. Coach Henny, for example, would the process around his hire be something I deem championship worthy or like a serious program would do? No. Serious programs at this critical stage of the program's development don't hire guys that have never even called plays outside of one bowl game, right? Like if you're an established year in, year out title contender, I get it. We haven't even made the playoffs. So I don't like the process around that hire if it is the one that we decide to do. Having said that, there is the unknown. You could hit on something special with Coach Henny. I'm very big on giving the young and up and coming scheme guy a chance. Coach Henny isn't a scheme guy. He's an elite recruiter, a very personable guy, seems like a very good motivator outside of the game in South Bend, but we don't need to go into that. So it's a big swing. And what you're essentially telling people by hiring Coach Henny is players over coaches, players over scheme. You want to retain the guys you brought in. You wanted to make them happy by giving them their coach as the DC, and you roll the dice and we go from there. Now with Gary Patterson, people act like it's a sure thing slam dunk when it's not even close to that. So, Gary Patterson has not coached an actual defense since 2021, where it was an absolute disaster. And then the following year, Sonny Dykes took that same team to the national title game. And the defense in 21 for TCU was bad. They were terrible. The further along Coach Patterson got into the Big 12, the worse and worse his defenses got. Now, while being out of the game for a while is usually a red flag, there is a world where it turns into a positive. He was able to sit back in an analyst role, view the game from an outside perspective, tinker with his scheme, tinker with his ideas. Because guys, and this is a quote from Gary himself, his scheme was designed to allow less talented defenders to compete with more talented offenses, i.e. the same philosophy as Alex Grinch. Now the scheme's totally different. Gary has actually been successful, so I'm not comparing them in that sense at all. Scrub that from your brain. What I'm saying is at USC, in theory, we shouldn't be a less talented defense than the teams we're going up against. And in a few years, we won't be. But if you want to be positive and look at it from that sort of perspective, this year, when we're going up against the Indianas and the Oregons and the Ohio States, we are going to be less talented. Just defensively, we're going to be outmatched in that sense against those offenses. Doesn't mean we can't win. Settle down. I can hear you type in your comments now. But we will be less talented. There's no way around that. That's just the reality of the situation. So in theory, that kind of approach, that kind of philosophy could work for this year. Now, if you're Gary Patterson, how comfortable are you going into a school as a defensive coordinator, not the head coach, and your staff is picked out for you? You don't get to hire anybody. You have to keep Coach Belk and Coach Henny and Coach Nua, hopefully not Coach Ryan, dear God. So that's going to be a big question for him that if he takes a job, he will have answered. And the interesting thing when you compare Gary Patterson to Coach Henny, with Gary Patterson, I have like 2 pages of notes on his scheme for if and when he's hired. I have learned as much as I can about his cover blue, his little hybrid base coverage, which is essentially just a cover 2 read that's palms. Anyway, I'll get more into that if and when he's hired. But we know so much about Gary Patterson. There's years and years and years of tape and coaching clinics and all of this. With Coach Henny, what scheme are we going to be running? Are we actually going to know? If there's no spring game and we don't get a chance to see it, we're not going to have any idea until we actually see the team on the field. And we'll have to break it down and diagnose it from there. Which, if you're Lincoln Riley and you're super paranoid and you think the entire world is out to get you, that sounds like heaven for him. No one even knowing what scheme we're running, having 0 tape on it. Would Coach Henny just take the D'Anton Lynn playbook and put his little spin on it? Would it be the base scheme? I don't know. Would he take a lot of influences from the Rams? I mean, this could go a lot of different directions. You'd have to think that we would just keep the same scheme because the personnel that were brought in around it have been in this scheme for a couple years now, just to keep that continuity going. Because with Coach Henny as a DC, that continuity is the number one thing you're getting. The number one positive, the biggest takeaway. And continuity seems to be a very big deal for Chad Bowden. When you hear him talk, when you see the moves he's made this offseason, he did nothing to really rock the boat. Very steady, building on what we had last year. But yeah, either way, I think people are going to be disappointed. Could either of these hires work? Absolutely. There's pros to both. There's ways to look at it and a lens to look at it through that can get you excited. But like when I heard that we were in on Corey Batoon from Missouri, I was so excited. I'm a massive fan of his. I thought that would have been a home run hire. So to be here now, it could work out. It could be great. But neither of these moves feel like the ones that are made that are going to push us over the edge to get a national title. I don't know. I'm getting a very weird overall feeling about Lincoln Riley and his tenure at USC, and could it possibly be coming to an end after 2026? There's a lot riding on this year. So we'll see what happens. We'll see when this DC hire is actually announced. Knowing my luck, the second I hit publish on this video, it'll be out. So I am going to get out of here, edit this video. If you guys did happen to enjoy it, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Really appreciate you guys being here. You're all awesome. And as always, take care and fight on.